We're ready.
Allison logged
Rhythm.
She's not a participant right now.
She said she was in the waiting room.
Oh, really?
Doesn't transfer.
Right.
It's not transferred.
Otherwise, could you send me the link?
Like, it's like this laughing.
I don't know.
I'll dance in the line.
The waiting room is not enabled. Okay, let me get you the invite then.
I copied it to the board already. You can
At night.
send it to her. So now,
Copied it to what?
Yeah.
I copied the meeting link to the clipboard already from Zoom. So you can just go to email and email it to them.
No, just make set up.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah,
Everyone else disagrees.
That's what my.
Oh, it's a story at a time.
I don't see.
So we have to manually.
which is something.
To them, it's one.
Do you have email over there?
Yeah,
Why don't you just log into Zoom there, grab the link and send it?
because when I tried to log in, it wasn't getting me
I
there.
only keep the things that are still.
Like, I went off the website, but just.
I also get it.
This is.
I really
Like the. Man of operation.
Yeah.
and things around. Other businesses, you know, have questions about all, then I'll go. Find them.
Really?
I have there.
That's good.
Okay, so let's just start recording. I'll get this started and we'll try to, if you can,
So you're good to go and
okay?
I'll troubleshoot this while you.
Okay, we'll get through some of the formalities here then. Hopefully by then we can get Allison on. Good evening, everyone. I would like to call the Village of Landon Plan Commission meeting to order for Wednesday, May 20th, 2026 at 6:32 p.m. If everyone would rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. If everyone would please check their phones and make sure they're on silent, please. Thank you. Roll call, Batiste.
Present.
Janice. Here. Lake.
Yes.
Hayleitner.
Here.
Lavold.
Here.
And Yates is present. And Newman.
Thank you.
Yeah, I forgot.
How could we forget about Jerry?
Tim Foster.
So,
Radically an institution. Statement of public notice. Has been posted. That's a horrible brand impression. Item number 5, discussion and possible approval of plan commission meeting minutes from 3/18/26. Did anyone have any suggested corrections? Or a motion?
One question.
Yes, sir.
Item 11 for AFW,
Mhm.
the septic communication owners, which a copy was included in the packets. Was, I was looking through that packet, but I don't remember. Couldn't find something.
I think it was a letter that I had in the last packet.
In the previous packet.
Yeah, in the
and then
previous packet.
Carried over.
There was a letter, yeah, that was in that packet.
And I think we are still working through that process with them.
We're, yeah, getting closer.
They're actively participating now, so
There.
that's good.
Is she on it?
Any other questions or comments about the minutes? Anyone care to forward a motion?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the plan commission meeting from March 18th, 2026.
Second from Lavold. She's very shy. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6. Citizen comments. Do we have any citizen comments this evening or all just applicants? It's like all applicants. Okay. You're gonna get your chances. All right, item number 7. Do we have Allison yet?
Mhm. We do not. She has the link down,
She
Brenda.
said the link does not take me to a Zoom meeting.
Hmm.
Bear with us for a moment.
All right, let me see.
You just go to number 9.
I can invite her. Could you give me, could you give me, I don't have email on this thing.
Hmm. 9.
You can just read out the actual URL link to Brenda and she can type it in.
Okay, so
Okay, Mike, is that a motion to
Yes,
table 8?
I'll make
Later
the,
in the meeting and advance number 9?
yes, I'll make a motion to table items 7 and 8, until the technical difficulties are completed. And so on to number 9.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to temporarily table 7 and 8. We will come back to those items later. Item number 9, discussion of possible action regarding land and tank. Temporary storage necessitated by building additions associated with the conditionally approved plan of operation. All right, I think, Ben, you were gonna walk us through this one, right?
Yep, correct. I apologize. I do not have any written prepared comments, but this is gonna be a bit of a discussion. So Land and Tank has started their building expansion process at their core site on the parcel they own. I think one thing that was, well, I'll say they received conditional approval. To my knowledge, the only condition that they have yet to work through is getting the necessary easement from Waukesha County related to the encroachment on the bug line property, which I think we all recognize looked like a pre-existing condition or whatever, but we asked them to get that straightened out with the county. Nonetheless, they're proceeding. I believe they have their early start permit in place for footings for their new building. We've provided them comments on the water service lateral. I think we're at a point where we have no further comments on that. But quite frankly, a concerned citizen raised an issue about Land and Tank temporarily storing material on the neighboring property to the north, which is CS Storage. Part of this, the history here frankly is Edgar, the business owner and operator who's here tonight, has asked for outright permission to do so in the past, and we've told him it's a non-compatible use. The CS Storage property is zone B2 downtown business district. Edgar's property is correctly zoned as LI, light industrial. Light industrial allows for everything that Edgar is doing, including allowing for outdoor storage in a screened manner. Through conditional uses and special use permits, we've been through this in the past. You can, on light industrial, have a contractor storage yard, which doesn't exactly, I want to clarify it myself real quick. Edgar's storage of products, the actual tanks, I don't believe constitutes a contractor storage yard. I bring that up because in the past, it's been brought up by the building inspector that CS Storage is basically allowing contractors to use the property, portions of the property, as contractor storage. Which is a non-conforming use for B2. Quite frankly, I believe that the cold storage buildings, the self-storage buildings that are on this CS storage property are likely legal non-conforming. I don't believe that use conforms with the B2. And I believe we've been through that with that property owner at least once in the past 10 years, going all the way back to Bob Blankenheim when he was building inspector here. That it's, you know, kind of a legal non-conforming use that just shouldn't be expanded. So here, back to how this relates to Land and Tank. Land and Tank has installed what I'm told is temporary gravel and just north of the Land and Tank property and west of the storage units, gravel area where they can move their products where it's stored outdoors before it's shipped off the premise, is how I understand it. Talking through this with Edgar, you know, this came to light after the complaint. I think it's very logical why this storage is needed. He's kind of got to vacate part of his premises in order for the improved water lateral that's going through his parking lot for the building addition, etc. He's got to move his products somewhere. Now Edgar represents that it's a limited term use of the property, and so you will see the lease agreement is in your packet. Edgar represented that that agreement requires him to restore the property to a pre-existing condition at the end of its term. I skimmed through the document. I didn't find that provision, but Edgar will get a chance to comment on all of this once we get into it here a little bit. I think Edgar has been forthcoming in kind of not shying away from the fact in order to get material up there, a culvert was installed, etc. That work would normally be done under a grading permit. He has submitted an after the fact permit. He submitted a erosion control plan, stormwater information that we've requested to go along with all of that. We're not done with our review, but you know, quite frankly, there's no red flags there as far as the technical stormwater and erosion control issues. So I believe that'll get worked through. So this issue kind of cooks down to, for me, how do we want to handle the use of the sites, both in the limited term, and you'll notice that I'm strategically not using the word temporary because temporary is a defined term within the ordinances that's usually limited to 30 days, etc. But for this limited term, Hector will have a chance to comment, but could last up until the building is complete. I understand business is going really, really well for Land and Tank, and Edgar has an interest in hearing feedback on what paths forward might exist for him to make this a permanent use. So that kind of, while that's a future hypothetical, it kind of puts the attention back on the CS storage property in the extent of, you know, it's a legal non-conforming use relative to the B2 zoning as is. The current property owner, again, is, I don't know about presently, but has certainly been operating a contractor storage yard. Had difficulty reining that in. Now this expanded use, while not contractor storage yard, certainly fits a lot better with light industrial than it does with the B2 zoning districts. However, I want to read you a couple of things out of the B2 zoning district ordinance 78-88. I'm going to read permitted uses Permitted accessory uses and conditional uses, bear with me for a couple minutes. Permitted uses, following subject to approval of the plan commission of a building site and operation plan. Retail stores, shops, community and customer service establishments, business offices, professional offices. Dry cleaning, dental, medical, commercial studios, display galleries, training schools, public utility offices. And similar uses subject to plan commission approval. That's outright permitted B2 uses. Permitted accessory uses. Garages for storage of vehicles used in conjunction with the operation of the business. Off-street parking, loading areas, signs, and other structure or use normally accessory to the principal uses permitted. I would interpret this as the way that Edgar is using that is not normally associated with the primary use of what's permitted within B2. Again, what's actually operating on the property is technically legal non-conforming. Last paragraph, conditional uses. Antique shops, appliance and small machinery repair establishments, art studios, bed and breakfast, drive-in establishment, legal non-conforming uses, planned unit development, restaurants, taverns, theater, gas stations. So that at least, in my opinion, and of course, Hector, I'm curious for your input. The fact that you can kind of put some context to the legal non-conforming use through a conditional use process tells me that at least if the plan commission is interested in letting Edgar continue to use the neighboring property as he's currently using it for the limited term, that there should probably be some type of conditional use permit in place that would address it. Alternatively, if this were to go a long-term route, Edgar would have to, just brainstorming this, he would have to subdivide the land, take the piece of land that he wants, get that rezoned to light industrial, and use it as he wants to use it. Edgar, I had floated that idea to Edgar, and he represented that the current, I'll say, entity that owns CS Storage, it would be pretty complicated in order for them to subdivide their property and get a piece over to Edgar. So this is kind of the situation that we have us in, that this use is happening. As the agenda item says, logically, the use is necessitated by the site improvements to the primary lot that were approved. There's a limited term. I think some kind of bounds need to be put on the use, and there's potentially a couple different paths to go ahead from here. And so certainly interested in Hector's input and ultimately plan commissions. And at some point, of course, the applicant's interested in discussing as well.
So I wonder if it wouldn't be, well, let me start. Is that aligned perfectly with your understanding, Edgar, and what your ask is here tonight?
Yeah, I believe so. To me, and Ben, thank you for that.
Yep.
Probably a lot of things that went over my head quickly, but that I'm learning. But, it sounds, I would agree, a conditional use permit to allow us to store the products that we're using there now for the limited term, which obviously I'd like to extend that as long as that would be possible. Not only are we going through the building and the water main expansion, the business is growing at the same time. Quite honestly, that I haven't found a solution that would not, in essence, create a financial hardship if we had to ship those tanks off-site for storage. Some of them are oversized, would require permitting just to haul them down Main Street, so. Other than that, yeah, I think from what Ben has said, I would agree with his statements, comments.
Okay, council, did you want to weigh in on?
First of all, is there a representative here from CS Storage?
Anderson is quite adversary.
As long as I have been the village attorney, this particular operation, in my opinion, has been uncooperative and defiant of the village's expectations. If I understand,
CS storage he's talking about, not you.
yeah,
Okay, I was gonna ask the same clarification.
No. We've,
yeah,
I've dealt with
storage.
them for 20+ years.
And so with that background, I have to disagree with your analysis. As you read the ordinance, it basically states what can be done in a B2 district, which CS Storage is in. The burden is always on the property owner, and that's why I asked if there's a representative of CS Storage here to demonstrate the existence of a legal non-conforming use. The only evidence that I know of for some legal non-conforming use would be the structures that are on the property itself. In the past, the village has taken a different position with regards to vehicles and assemblage of product outdoors on this property. It's not logical from my standpoint to contend that the placement of finished products such as the storage things is ancillary to anything that's taken place there before. It's got to be connected with business that's there. Now, I know that the effort here is to try to facilitate and do what is necessary to enable a company that is employing individuals and it's growing and it's competing in a very difficult economic environment to succeed. But this business of just rezoning a portion of land that is not divided because it's difficult for the CS storage people because of the way they've organized themselves to do so is not a solution. The solution that I see would be, particularly since Land Tank currently owns a 4-acre plus parcel compared to a very large parcel for Land Tank to negotiate with the storage people for the acquisition of property.
Sure, yeah.
And attach that to your parcel so that you have control over your future. Now, they may not be willing to do so, but just thinking out loud, this is a solution, because otherwise I do not believe that the options that have been described by the village engineer are defensible in the long term. Because I, as the village attorney and the prosecutor, am thinking to myself, okay, we do this once. There's a lot of territory on the CS storage property. There's a great deal of demand for outside contractor storage. How many times is the village going to go through this particular challenge? And I think people should understand that just because there is a request for a rezoning, that's an entitlement. Wisconsin law does not provide for that. Here, I think there are good grounds, but it's got to be done in an organized way. Here, a storage lease was entered into in March. It's already expired, well, will expire at the end of this month. So where were the Circle S people dealing with this issue? My reaction is, well, they were dealing with this issue in the same manner they've dealt with other issues that I've been involved. And it's unfortunate because there is a demand for the services that CS Circle S provides. There's a need for that. And there's a lot of underutilized property that they control. So I'm prepared to answer any questions that you might have.
I wanna add one data point, and that's that the comprehensive land use plan shows the CS storage property as the planned neighborhood district, meaning kind of mixed use development or commercial or institutional or residential could all be options. So even if Land and Tank purchases part of the property and wanted to rezone it, they would have to go through plan commission to amend the comp plan first.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. But it's, in my opinion, it's doable. There's a valid public policy reason for doing it. There's a thriving business that needs more space. We want to keep the business in Lannon. And at the same time, there's available open space, which is underutilized and not generating a whole lot of revenue for the village,
Sure.
given its condition.
With the historian speaking.
Yeah.
That's been a storage yard before certain ordinances were written. So to call it B2 is proper, but not realistic. Also, we're talking about storing something in a storage yard, and we're talking about it temporarily. So I think we're making a mountain out of a molehill right now on this issue. Nels Anderson, we've had some dealings with, and we had some problems with him, almost 20 years ago. We had auto repair places in there, we had a body shop in there, we had lawn service in there, repairing lawnmowers and storing flammable liquids. And we worked at quite a bit at cleaning him up. And we were fortunate and able to do it to a degree. Secondly, the outside storage was an issue. But we made a deal with him to donate the land to put that berm on. Because the park was exposed to all this outside storage. And through some negotiations and discussions, actually in Hector's office, as I recall, we did get an agreement with him. And he would be able to store equipment in the yard, mostly it was motorhomes and stuff, but it was some trucks and some dump trucks and things. If he would donate the land, allow us to build a berm on it, the height, all that stuff, and then he could do that outside storage. And that, in fact, is what happened. And the berm got built, we've got free dirt from the rebuilding of Silver Spring. The contractor built the berm for us for free and he gave us the land. So that's what's happened since, and that's why it's been a storage yard ever since.
I have a question for you on that, as long as you're bringing it up, and I apologize for taking away from this topic for a second, but did that deed ever get recorded? Because if you go on the Waukesha County GIS, it still shows that land as his.
Oh, yeah, but he allowed the berm to be built on it.
Okay, well then,
So we
then he
did-
didn't really give it to us. He didn't
Well-
give us the land, he just let us build a berm on it.
Yeah, but it didn't infringe on, otherwise we were gonna have to build it on the park property, which we didn't have any.
Okay.
And so he gave us the land and we built the berm.
Okay, just wanted to
Yeah.
clarify that.
No, that's back. But, and for me on this particular subject,
we're talking about a temporary situation, with an adjacent property owner. It's not like he's moving in some new companies and some kind of thing.
I think the temporary thing we could probably muddle our way through, but what I'm hearing is that there's a desire for this to be a permanent arrangement, and that's where the challenge comes in. Am I wrong?
But at this time, we're not discussing that.
No, we're looking for whatever the limited term length can be, that max would be beautiful, as we do try to work down the path of buying a property. Right, so that Circle S is in a trust that doesn't get turned over for some years. It's being managed by a person that I've had communications with, and we are starting to have those conversations that we would maybe bite off to, we're under, what was it, like 0.96 acres or something like that, Mark, you remember?
I don't, let me see if it's on here.
Perhaps we bite off a 2 to 3 acre parcel there for outdoor storage, and we can make something happen. That's what we're trying to do, but that's for the long term.
So is there a path forward where we can then come to some resolution on this short-term allowance, and we can readdress a permanent change?
It's agenda as temporary storage. That's what the agenda is.
Yeah.
I would say they would have to come back with a full-blown application. But this is just what they've done, and they've got the short-term lease, and that's really all we're discussing tonight.
So I would just say, Jerry, like, my objective would be to find a path forward for the temporary or limited term use also. What we've been struggling with the last, I'm gonna say, 5 years is starting to put some guardrails in place to the contractor storage yards in general, which require the special use permits. And I know that's an ordinance that the village has been trying to adhere to, at least procedurally. And so I would be, as Hector said, I think there's been a lot more interest in this topic, or contractor storage yard or storage yard land uses in general. Could all probably think of at least one other business name where this has been problematic. So I do think that the procedure here, yeah, the procedure here is going to be important. And I don't see something really obvious in the ordinance that says, here's the procedure for getting someone in limited term outdoor storage. To me, the special use permits themselves are reviewable every 3 years at max. That's one tool that's been applied to other properties, but in this situation, I get it makes a ton of sense. It's logical. I'm concerned about what is the procedure.
The Circle S have to be the one to draw up the permit.
All zoning matters, Hector, help me out here. Zoning matters have to be at the request of the property owner, right?
Correct.
So the tenant in this case can prepare all the materials, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but there has to at least be a signature on the application from the property owner.
And how difficult is that to obtain? You've had.
Are you saying the
That's
special
Circle
use
S,
of
yes.
what we're doing, or are rezoning? I'm a little confused if you.
Both of them are zoning matters.
Changes?
Yeah,
Okay.
well, I would just say
So
zoning matters, meaning that they're procedures that are covered in chapter 78, which is the zoning code.
So is this like step 2? Step 1 is still the conditional use permit limited term?
Well, we're not even that far
Yeah,
yet,
okay.
so those are like different, like conditional use permits, different than special use permit, different from zoning change. Different from plan of operation, they're all under the umbrella of the zoning code. Not necessarily
I believe I can get.
To me, we're talking
A
about,
signature from them.
we're talking about storage in a storage yard. We're not talking rezoning, we're not talking anything. We got the lease right here. Now that can all happen in the future.
Right.
But for tonight, we're talking about storage in a storage yard.
So I think what Ben is driving at, or trying to be very delicate at driving at, is making a very clear distinction about the difference between this particular temporary or, excuse me, not temporary, limited term arrangement and getting ourselves into a situation similar to the one that we've been spending the last couple of years arguing and trying to resolve down at AFW. And we don't want to cross a line and set a precedent that damages or inhibits any further progress that we're making to getting that other site cleaned up. So I think the goal here, I think, is to find a way that we can, while not being obstructionist in nature, find a proper procedural way to do this, that doesn't compromise our position in other matters.
And I would, your AFW example is great. But the CS storage itself, like,
Right.
if I have seen a plan of operation for it or a site plan for it, or I can't picture it in my mind. I may have, it's been a while. I personally have certainly not seen a written agreement that allows him to use it as storage. So if that agreement exists, that's a different story. If that agreement does not exist, then we have to look at this property itself. If it's a legal non-conforming use, the ordinances talk about expansion of a legal non-conforming use. And would this land and tanks use of the CS storage property be in an area, which I'm not familiar with the property, but just from aerial imagery, it looks like this part of CS storage wasn't used for anything. And now approximately 0.9 acres of it is being used for this. Is that an expansion of a legal non-conforming use?
Now, I will
Which is
also,
another thing that I just, procedurally, the direction that the village has been going for at least the last 5 years is to, okay, even where we want to support a local business here, presumably, of make sure the procedure and paperwork and the documentation is all in order.
yeah, and for the sake of full transparency here too, I want to shed a little light on myself as well here and put out in the open that probably 2 months ago, I think you reached out to me, Edgar, and asked me about this particular situation and this concern. And me, understanding that, look, I understand what his needs were. He explained them to me as being a short-term need at that time. This was gonna be a very limited short-term. It was an extenuating circumstance kind of thing, which apparently has developed further since our conversation. And I told Edgar, I said, look, okay, this is really, if this is just going to be a short-term thing, this, whatever this would be, would need to have a definite ending point. And I said, if you will provide me with a letter explaining exactly what you're asking for, what the expiration or the deadline will be, that all of this will be done, and an acknowledgement that you're doing this at your own risk, fine, you can store a few tanks over there temporarily to try to help them out in this situation. So, I just want to be completely transparent with that. Now, I did not understand that this was going to involve construction of a culvert and a path. I assumed they were going to get moved around through the road and all that, but that's another piece of this that has not been brought up yet, and I think it's important everybody understand that, at least for full context.
So is that what precipitated the commercial outside storage lease then, was Patrick asking for some sort of deadline? Is that where this came from, or was this done previous to?
No, I
To
think
that
that came
request.
after the fact. They wanted something in place after I talked with Patrick.
Cause it's up the end of May, which is also an interesting situation, because I feel like the horse has left the barn and.
Well, that was initially, when Edgar and I first spoke about this, he again indicated that he felt the need was gonna be fairly short term. Said end of May, June. I said, okay, fine, state that in the letter, and I don't have a copy of it with me tonight, but.
The agreement in the packet, there is a provision that says if the use extends beyond the term, it shall constitute moving ahead as just a month to month situation for me. So it's kind of like, as far as CS storage is concerned, this could kind of go on in perpetuity.
Perfect, yep.
Well, of course, that's what they want.
Right.
So what would, pardon me, what would be the step moving forward to, is a special use the right step to, at our present state? What would the village be looking for us to do, on Edgar's behalf or on behalf of, well, with CS Storage to make everything right, to get the paperwork in place, like you indicated, Ben, get everything in place to help you understand what our limited term is going to be. Obviously, we thought that the building would move forward. We've had some delays and things like that in construction, so that's why the term is coming up soon, but we're still not quite at that point. But I mean, we're willing to do the things we need to do to make everything appropriate, have the paperwork in place to help you understand what we're looking to do. And then we would love to have a conversation about if we can get them to sell us the additional portion of land to have that rezoned as well long term, but for the short term, we just want to know what we need to do to make things right.
My personal preference would be you buy the entire CS storage parcel.
Yeah, I got $20 in my purse, I'll throw it.
You're in,
Beyond-
you're a shareholder.
Beyond that, the specific, I don't have a clear understanding of procedurally what.
Yeah.
What the right way to move forward is, I really don't.
Would conditional use permit, would that be appropriate?
Have a hearing and everything.
Again, let me give you the structure. Legally, it's B2. The land owned by Circle S. Circle S cannot do any outside storage except anything ancillary to what they can demonstrate predated the use of that property. They are not here. They have not demonstrated that there is an outside use. There is no question that there was a meeting that involved Mr. Newman and myself. But quite frankly, reflecting on that, it was an understanding because there was a desire to obstruct the view of this property, which was written with all kinds of things.
Outside storage.
But there was never any transfer of ownership to the village, and to the best of my recollection, that was not contemplated. The owner was going to tolerate and allow the burning there, and it
Screening.
was accomplished,
Yeah, it was screening.
period. From that transaction, there was no obligation on the part of the village to do anything particular. I'm not worried about this particular application, namely the applicant. I'm worried about people like Mr. Brandt, who has come before the Plan Commission, who has vociferously argued that he's not being treated fairly. You can't do a different thing in a similar situation here. And so and on top of that, where does the village derive the basis for taking an existing piece of property that remains in the same ownership and cutting off a chunk, so to speak, and applying a different zoning to the same property. You cannot apply zoning on a temporary basis. It's either B2 or some other. And so once Land and Tank is no longer the tenant there, it's zoned for outside storage. And then what is the village going to do? This village, because of its size, because of its budgetary situation, is very adverse to the notion of going to court to enforce ordinances.
Mhm.
And if we have a lease such as this one, which is self-perpetuating, when does temporary actually end? That's why I suggested a practical solution. Make a reasonable offer. This is excess land that Circle Storage has, and you lock in your future. And it can be zoned in a manner consistent with your operation. Because the acreage you have right now, to me as a layman, strikes me as being somewhat limiting for your future growth.
Mhm. Well, to speak to what Ben said too, that the future plans for what the village would like to see in that is also contradictory to either Circle Storage or the expansion, like, let's say Land and Tank took over the whole thing, we would have to revisit that planning, because they're not gonna turn it into a residential area, they're not going to, put retail in it or sell antiques. So there's like so many layers of this, right down from what would Landon like it to be someday,
Right.
right through to what is it being used for today, and then you've got the handshake agreement that supersedes everything. Because, wait, and I understand why you did that, I mean, I understand back in the day, but how do you unring that bell?
Well, I think the first step is what Hector is alluding to, and that is you have to stop the practice of selective enforcement.
Mhm.
You have to be consistent with your enforcement, and you're holding to your ordinances and your procedures. And, I feel like this board over the last several years has made a lot of efforts to do just that. To establish a new standard and a new procedure of how these things were going to work, because frankly, some of those other more non-traditional methodologies have gotten us into some of the stickier messes that we're trying to resolve.
And to speak to intent, the intent is to support Land and Tank and to make sure that they are a thriving member of our community, but
To the extent that we can.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's an unfortunate situation. I think we all can sit up here and say we wish this was a much easier solution. But it's not.
Can I recommend a procedure, and Hector, you can critique it? Because I believe there's risk in selective enforcement to the village just simply saying, you know what, just carry on, we don't have a procedure for this. I would suggest at having a conditional use permit, it could be prepared by the tenant, signed by the property owner, but that conditional use permit would even potentially have a legal description of just the area of the property that Land and Tank intends to use. And that conditional permit could establish a term. And whether that term is a year or longer, special use permit itself. Special use permit, it's pretty, if I understand correctly, the difference between special use and conditional use is informed similar requirements, but I think the implementation, maybe there's an extra hearing or something like that with the conditional use permit. But anyhow, something that would at least be consistent with what we've asked of other property owners recently with their storage rights. What I don't like about that, if that were acceptable, to me, it would be very, very, very important to have it described as just being applicable to a certain area without addressing or having CS storage suddenly address that, like, yay, now we can use the whole site this way, etc. You know what I mean, Hector?
Yeah, you can define the area, but when Circle S starts violating it, what's the village going to do? Is the village gonna monitor the situation once Land and Tank? Is the village going to enforce the situation? That's what I worry about. Getting into the swimming pool is no big deal, although I have reservations about the legal permissibility of a conditional use permit. Getting out of the pool, how do we assure the village that this is just temporary? And how do we deal with the next party who generally hears about a conditional use permit that was accommodated by the village to help out a business, so a worthy business, there's no question about it. I think my approach would be that regardless of what has been said by the trustee of the Circle S trust, that perhaps maybe there be comments made by the Plan Commission as to their individual attitude towards rezoning any parcel acquired by Land and Tank to a zoning which they currently have. And that way, there can be confidence. There's no obligation on the part of the members of the Plan Commission to vote ultimately, but giving the applicant the sense that there is support so that the applicant can go in and say, look, here's an opportunity to get some cash to develop land that's otherwise been sitting there fallow. We can try to accelerate the process within the statutory limits, but it will take some time.
Well, based on Hector's recommendation, I think what you're looking to hear from, and I personally am not opposed to, I wouldn't oppose the notion of rezoning a small section of that property in the future to a light industrial zoning. However, I would not be in favor of rezoning the entire parcel. I think there are far too many redevelopment opportunities for the village in the future for that. But understanding the current and immediate needs and probably some projected future needs, I think it would be reasonable to change a portion of that parcel should you manage to obtain it or acquire a portion of it.
And where does that leave them right now then?
So what Hector's looking for is some general sentiment from each of us on the Plan Commission in terms of how we might respond to a request to rezone a portion of that land. Do I have that correct?
Yes.
My question though is, and Commissioner Newman spoke about the Circle S having storage currently. The village is the village enforcing that now?
no, clearly not, that's the issue, and so but that's ancillary, that is something I think that probably needs to be addressed, but the question now is. If they were able to acquire a portion or all of it, would we consider, would you be in favor of or against? Rezoning a portion or all of that property to light industrial?
I would have no objection to rezoning that property to light industrial. I think, it's a growing company. I think they've been very diligent in coming here, and addressing that situation. They're trying to do everything possible, to continue their growth spurt. So I have no problem with doing that.
All right, so I indicated I would be in favor of a portion of it. Mr. Janice, Commissioner Janice is in favor of any or all, it sounds like.
Yes.
Lake.
Correct.
How many acres is Circle S approximately?
And it's just under 20.
That much?
It's around 20, yeah.
It's big.
And you're talking about short-term an acre, long-term,
Maybe we look at all, but I don't know, maybe 3 acres
well,
or the whole property, but.
if you buy the whole property, you're not gonna get it all as industrial though, we just said that.
Oh,
So,
Well,
no,
maybe
I
there's
just-
a counter to
you
that.
said you would not be in support of that.
Right.
Counter to that, we keep it light industrial as land and tank. If we would ever sell it, we could let village rezone it or do it back, whatever it is.
And plus, we would get it under control. Right now, it's not under control. We would get it under control through them.
Sure.
If the whole property was purchased by them.
My, ideally for me, I would love it, again, also, if they were able to obtain it all. CSM it. Split that up and combine their 2 lots to a single lot with a light industrial zoning. And whatever comes of the rest of it comes, but. Jerry, I imagine you have some thoughts on Heather's question.
First of all, looking at purchasing it some years ago, I think you're going to get quite a surprise when you hear what Nils Anderson wants for it. And, yeah, it's gonna be obscene. It was 10 years ago and I can't
Well,
imagine.
the
it's gonna
3/4
change.
acre residential
Yeah.
property one at 2 million, so yeah, it probably will be ridiculous.
Yeah, you're talking 20 acres,
Yeah.
so. And also, but I would highlight again, the name of the property is Circle S Storage, and it has been storage for 30 years. So we're not violating anything there. Now, the zoning issue comes up, but the zoning issue came up after it's been CS Storage. So, and before that, it, was Schneider Excavating Contractor's Yard full of excavators and dump trucks and many other things. And that was also before we had any screening ordinances. So, and I'll come back to the agendized item is for a temporary for land and tank. And, all this other is discussion that should take place in the future. Should resolve this item tonight, either approve it or deny it.
Hector, is there any grandfathered rule? Because according to Mr. Newman, it was
yeah.
grandfathered to storage, so is there any grandfathered rule prior to us putting the zoning on?
Mr. Newman is very knowledgeable, very experienced, but fundamentally, I disagree with his assertion. Because no one has come before you or filed any documents to show that anything stored outside those buildings is ancillary or incidental to the business that took place in the building. And that's the flaw in the logic. You know, storage is storage, yes, but it has to be connected to something that legitimately could be there. And a contractor's yard is not consistent with a business there. The other thing you have to take into consideration is fundamentally the transformation that is taking place in this community. it is moving away from its industrial roots. And it's becoming a residential community. And you have to take that into account when you make zoning decisions. And you just can't flip zoning just because someone who is a good guy will benefit from it.
Right.
You have to take into consideration the best interests of the community. And you have to take into consideration the fair treatment of other people who are in different businesses like hauling and taking away contractor material. There is an acute shortage of places where stuff can be dumped and left there until there's a need for it, or until it can be processed. And that's the dilemma.
So I have a question that I'm gonna jump over to Mr. Newman's side for a second. When you look at many of these storage facilities, many of them also have accommodations for things like boats and RVs and trailers and things of that nature.
Across the
So-
street, actually.
Yeah, so Green Acres, for
Yeah.
example. Now, those are presumably permitted uses in that instance. So I think what Mr. Newman's point is that, well, how do you define that distinction?
Yeah.
So in those cases, it's an ancillary use to the primary business, but in this case, it's not. I mean, if Circle S Storage goes and rents a 20 by 20 space and stores some old files in there, is it now ancillary because they're a customer of the legal non-conforming use?
Well, those are factual questions that are very legitimate, but need to be answered rather than in a generalized fashion, because the analogy may not be applicable.
Mhm.
You have to take it on a item by item basis to evaluate the question of whether it would be fair or not.
And I think where I fall on the whole thing is the fact that, although I acknowledge that I'm fully supportive and I don't wanna be a pain, but when we look at the master plan, which I was not a trustee when we made the master plan, and we looked at the entire village as a whole, and we said we would like to have that someday be this sort of use. And let's face it, Land and Tank and Circle S is right in the middle of downtown. And we've got these long-term plans that we would like to see a downtown district, and we would like to, as Hector pointed out, cater more to our residential. So let's say Land and Tank is so successful that they just outgrow that property. They can't buy Circle S. We already told them we weren't gonna let them expand into the full 20 plus the acreage you already have. Maybe Land and Tank decides we are gonna go to the outskirts of town, we're gonna go to a different municipality, we're gonna sell all this. What would Land do with that strip of land right there if those very hypothetical situations were to happen? Would we want to rezone it and say, okay, well, this is gonna be industrial now, right here where it sits? And should we be taking those steps now? You know, if we say no to that and we say, no, that's a development opportunity that we would like to see another residential district, or maybe more condos, or maybe we want apartments, or you know, and then we want some retail along Main Street and it's right on the bug line and we're gonna do some recreational there. I mean, you know, like, I'm just trying to do the 30,000 foot view of the situation. Because we're going back in history to what it used to be, what is it gonna be in the future? And then, you know, it's not that I wouldn't support annexing some of that and making it part of yours to make, but I'm also just bringing up the thought that the entire DNA of this community has changed a lot from when Circle S started their business. And, you know, I just want to bring it up. I'm not arguing against it. I just am bringing it up.
Well, that's a 20 acre lot. And Land and Tank is looking to get let's just use 2 acres as an example. They're looking to get 2 acres at the edge of that lot. That leaves 18 acres for redevelopment if it gets redeveloped in the future in that residential district or whatever, or mixed use district, whatever you see fit for downtown. If Land and Tank is able to acquire a small piece of that property and do a legal lot split of that property, so they own it, and then do a combination with their current parcel. And then rezone that small piece, that still leaves a fairly large
Right.
parcel that could go through that redevelopment piece. Where they're storing the tanks right now, it's not visible from downtown. You can't see it from Main Street unless you drive onto their yard. I mean, it's fairly, obtrusive.
I'm pretty confident this commission would be fully supportive of that. The challenge before you there is the acquisition of the property.
Right.
And then the time that it's gonna take to go through those steps.
Right.
Because there are multiple steps and there's a lot of approvals and hearings and stuff that need to happen along the way, so.
Correct, but then that brings us back to, he's working on that, he's in conversation with them about that, he has a limited use lease to get us through the current period of construction. And perhaps by the time we're done with construction, we'll have some guidance on where that landed, after working with their legal team as well. But in the short term, we need that limited amount of time, which is why we're here tonight, to try to get us through that construction period. And, I think that's what we're trying to come to the grips on, right? What do we need to do for the next 4 months while we finish construction?
Is it 4 months?
I'd have to double check with my project manager. We can give you a date on that now. Now that we know that our permits are acquired, our actual full building permit is ready to be issued. Now that we have all permits in place, and we know that we've got the fire department worked out, we've got the water main worked out, we've got everything resolved. We can give you that deadline for what that construction period would be. You do have.
But with all due respect. With all due respect, and I do want to give you, Edgar, all the credit possible. At every step along the way, the last couple of years, you have always tried to be forthcoming and upfront and do things the right way. So for that, I thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
but there was a deadline when I spoke to Edgar a couple months ago. And it's about to come and go. So that was my concern then. It's my concern now.
That's why we're here.
Yeah,
Otherwise I'd start having to rent trucks to get everything all out of there.
right. So the point I'm trying to make is, if we're gonna go down this path, we're gonna start talking about a deadline, let's make sure that it's a very realistic and attainable one.
100%, yes.
Right. So, Jerry did bring up the issue that we have an agenda item here. What is it that we can take action on right now to help land and tank out without shooting ourselves in the foot for any future actions that we may want to take?
I'll make a motion that we authorize land and tank temporary storage for a period of 6 months.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Well, I will second that, although I do have questions regarding it.
Well, okay, so we have a motion, a second, so now we can have discussion. So Ben has something.
My opinion. I don't think the plan commission has business authorizing anything.
Right.
I don't think there's anything you can point to in the ordinance that says. This is what gives the plan commission authority to approve something that doesn't conform to the ordinances for a limited period of time.
Right. Especially since it's being brought by a
You put
tenant.
staff in a really tough position when you do that. But I would also point to, how's it been going at AFW? It's kind of they're continuing to operate at their own risk. And if at the village's, discretion, the village could take enforcement action. Escalate enforcement action at any time. If you can read between the lines, that might suggest you don't take any action here. And ask the tenant to come back and report at a set time with where he stands on acquiring property. That's an option.
And I would say that you got in the problem with AFW by lack of enforcement. That's gone on for 3 years. And if you would have been charging them $100 a day for illegal dumping, he'd be over $100,000 right now.
No, or if you'd have started it 10 years ago, where would we be? Millions, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean.
Right.
We can all point fingers, but
Yeah, but that pile was dumped in there illegally, permitted for 40 days, and it's been 3 years.
So I will also add, just to point out my own hypocrisy here. I wrote the language for this agenda
Thank you.
item. Yep. Okay. I don't think it's approvable as agendized, and my intent in bringing this to the plan commission was to get some direction from plan commission on what an appropriate procedure might be.
All right, well, we have a motion and a second. I think we have to clean that
yeah,
up.
we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion or questions from any other commissioners?
So is there any path forward for a conditional use or special use? Temporary basis if they continue to, for the next 6 months to have them legally, well, not legally, but have them. Appropriately conformed on a temporary use or limited term use.
Not from the parties present. It has to be coming from Circle S.
I think, Ben, what you're saying is use it as at my risk, and if the village decides to take enforcement, if you won't, we'd have to come back in 6 months and tell you where we're at.
I don't get involved on the enforcement end, but
Right, yeah.
what I have observed is that enforcement usually starts with a letter. Notifying of violation with a set term to correct the issue.
And so I could see a way I can consider what you're doing as storage and not make a fuss about it.
Yeah.
Maybe seeing you in 6 months seems a little long to just get your idea of what the future is gonna hold. Could we have you come back in 2 months or 3 months? And just
3 months.
rehash
We
this?
won't,
again?
we won't be in a position to probably change anything, because construction won't be done. Cause I know there's delivery.
No, but let's
So
say
we could have a plan moving forward, perhaps with Circle S, it's either yes or
in
no.
3 months. We just let things go for 3 months. You show back up here. We ask the same questions. How's your relationship with?
Yeah.
You know, who you get, have you got anywhere? And where are you going in the future with what you have? I mean, are we 3 months more down the road or 2 months or 4 months or whatever?
That's fair.
I don't see a way that we can approve this agenda item the way that it is. But I think it's reasonable to think that it's not gonna go farther than this in the near future.
Linda, do you have any comments or questions?
I was wondering how they're planning to move the tanks.
Well, they move them around with equipments and cranes and stuff right now
Trailers.
currently. But to move them off the site, it requires special permitting and equipment and.
Yeah, which they'll be doing.
Well, ultimately, I think the idea is that these are by project tanks, right?
Yeah,
And
these are all customer
when they
ordered
leave,
tanks.
they will leave and go to their final destination. But in the meantime, if that final destination isn't ready to receive them, they have to get out of the way so that they can do their improvements to their property and continue building other tanks and, yeah.
Hopefully nothing, any power line down there.
Right.
Not,
Hopefully not.
around the corner.
Right.
And it's going from the middle of their spot to the back of the spot.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so to rehash, Brenda, can you just, do you have the notion or the motion, excuse me? Can you read it back?
To authorize temporary storage for 6 months.
Okay, so to be clear. The motion and the second was to authorize this. We also have an option here of voting against it and not taking action.
Let's clear one off the table.
So, well, so we have to vote on the motion, because it's on the table. It's been seconded. So, tell you what, let's do a roll call vote. Lake,
No.
Janice,
No.
Batiste. No. Yates is no. But Paylighter,
No,
sorry, Steve. I was just going to Steve. Lavold,
No.
Newman,
Yes,
okay.
like to make a motion?
So motion failed. We have a motion.
A motion that we table this item for 3 months and bring it back.
We have a motion to table item number 9 for 3 months. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
You have a motion and a second for that. I will also call a roll call here. Newman,
no,
Lavold,
Yes.
Paylighter,
Yes,
Yates is a yes. Batiste,
Yes.
Janice,
Yes.
Lake.
Yes.
The motion to table passes. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for your input and your constructive ideas. We will now move back up to item number 7 on our agenda. Thank you, other applicants, for waiting patiently. Item number 7 is discussion and possible action on plan of operation and site plan for AR Tamburino Inc. 21833 West Good Hope Road, Landon, Wisconsin,
That's the one.
53046. This item, we have some comments from Allison. Does everybody have their comments from Allison? That she provided on the other plan commission item?
yeah,
Allison, thanks for being patient with us. I promise we'll get better at this technology.
You need to unmute Alex.
Not a problem.
There you go. We hear you good now.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have these notes? I seem to have multiple. Okay, good.
And are you the applicant for?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right, just wanted to make sure, I thought you were, but, all right, Allison, do you want to, walk us through the high points of your comments for this item, please?
Allison, you're on.
Yes, I'm gonna turn off my video because, yep, I'm gonna turn off my video because my internet is lagging, so hopefully that will help. But yes, so this is an application that you've seen, actually before. The applicant was, at a previous meeting. It was tabled. We're missing a couple of items. You will notice by my review that some more documentation has been provided, but there are still some missing items to this application. So this is an applicant who is looking to take over an existing company. So it's a new occupier for this site. Enclosed in your packet this evening is a sign permit application along with their plan of operations. And you will notice that in my report, I have documented the items that they have provided and the items that are still complete or incomplete. And I would be happy to answer any questions about those.
So we don't have a site plan at all. Oh, yes, Steve. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Oh, we've got the overhead.
We have the GIS. Okay.
But I think one of the things. So we do have I think parking, was one of the issues we discussed last time, and they still don't seem to be spelled out on here.
I would add that, the use is an existing use, so it's been going on there for, again, more than 20 years.
Yep.
And it's parking of dump trucks. That's it. I see the notice on a contractor storage yard, but there's no reason for a contractor storage yard because it's not that at all. They're gonna be dump trucks in the building and dump trucks in the yard. They come and go every day. So it's really not a storage issue either.
No. No, I think it was more. Trying to remember the comments.
So-
You don't need any delineated storage or parking because there's no employees. They're either in the trucks or at home.
Right.
And so. Not like you have customers coming to visit.
Oh, no.
So Allison, you have the site plan, marked as incomplete. What is, what are your requests for the, site plan?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in your ordinance requirements, and in your plan of operations requirements listed on your website, part of the items that they need to provide is the site plan, and there are several different components of the site plan, that should be considered. And, I can go through some of those, here. And for the site plan, everything that's required on a site plan is the dimension of the parcel, the dimensions and locations of all buildings, an interior floor plan, a grading or landscape plan if applicable, a drainage plan and erosion control practices if applicable, parking lot and loading plan, and then if any signage is changing or lighting is changing, those should be included. All lighting location, any outdoor uses or storage areas should be depicted on the site plan, and any fencing or screening should be depicted on the site plan along with dumpster locations, and dumpster screening should be depicted on site plans. And so I believe that the application falls short of a few of those items. There's a lack of detail with this application. And so that's what I've documented in my report.
Do parking spaces have to be delineated on that?
They should be shown.
Okay, so in his application, he's, is asserting that the, owner's employees will have 10 parking spaces. There'll be 5 visitor spaces and 1 handicap space. So you want that, indicated on the GIS.
Correct. Yeah, there should, other than a GIS aerial, there probably should be an actual site plan that's presented showing those parking areas. Like I said earlier, if there's any fencing or screening, any outdoor storage like the dump trucks, they should be shown on the site plan where they're going to be parked and stored on the property at night when they're not being driven. The dumpster location and screening area should be depicted on this site plan as well.
Okay.
In addition to that, the one other item that I noted was it looks like they are also requesting a sign permit this evening. And so you will notice in my staff review, I mentioned that they have provided kind of a photograph of the sign that they're requesting, but we have no dimensions, and the site plan does not depict the location of that sign. So it's unclear or not if that sign is legal non-conforming, if it's in the right of way, if it complies with setbacks for signage. None of that information was provided, along with height requirements, or I believe it shows that it's maybe 6 feet tall. But other than that, a true scaled site plan was not provided for the signage.
The sign is existing.
Yes, I just want to put my name on it.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm not sure in the past, if the sign was approved, changing the copy doesn't need another permit.
Oh, no, I don't. So I've been waiting to get it painted.
I know, but you're a new owner, so you should have a new sign permit, but it's the exact same sign
Right.
that's there right now.
Right. Hopefully
just
you're
wanna-
not gonna paint it like this.
Yeah, right. No, I'm not the artist. I just,
Okay.
I wanna take it, I wanna unbolt it, take it up and take it to an artist and she'll paint it. Kind, you know, just with my logo, but I didn't wanna do it until I got clearance.
So typically, we would give you clearance on actual artwork and what it's gonna look like when it's done,
Colors and such.
right?
Mhm.
So. We would be looking for a mock-up.
Okay.
Of what the sign's gonna look like.
Okay,
Indicate what I mean, it's an existing panel, you've indicated that, so it's gonna get painted and then put back up there, so. That would be fine. In terms of the site plan and the location of it, generally, that would be something either along the lines of. What you've. Provided as a pseudo site plan. This thing, I mean, you can see here where the sign is, so I don't know, Allison, if you can tell where it is, but it's. You know, it's in that little grassy area in the roundabout of the drive there. So there doesn't appear to be any right of way issues or anything of that matter, but that should be indicated on the site plan, which we can certainly add. I think, is the entire building, are there offices, are there, or do you have any drawings or floor plans from the previous owner showing the inside of the building?
No.
Where the walls are, where the restrooms are, things of that nature, that's generally a requirement.
okay, no, I don't. I mean, there's four bays for trucks and then I wanna put four inside and there's a small office,
Office,
probably
bathroom.
300 square feet, 2 bathrooms.
So generally, we want to have as part of the application. A floor plan.
Okay.
Or, and if you don't have the old floor plans from the old owner. Or the files from them, you know, we have accepted in the past scale drawings with measurements indicated on them. Just to have some idea of the composition of the space from the inside.
Okay,
This is often a challenge with some of these. Businesses that have been existing for a very long time and then somebody new wants to take over. A lot of times there isn't a lot of that transfer of that knowledge or those documentation.
so I can just draw it and, you know, just draw it with
But it-
measurements.
But it should be scaled and it should
Right.
have measurements. on
Okay.
it. Yeah, but you don't have to go spend thousands of dollars with an architect to have blueprints drawn. or
I
anything like
I
that.
won't. I'll draw it, you know, on a sheet of paper and I'll get an artist rendering of the sign.
Okay,
Yeah, like a proof.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I already took a picture and sent it to her and said, I want this painted with and she said, fine, but I was just waiting to get the green light before I took it apart and drove it over to her.
Yeah.
So I'll have her draw me a logo first, right?
Right.
Bring it to you guys, okay,
yep, and show us what the sign in color is gonna look
Okay.
like when it's done.
okay,
Okay, hopefully that's gonna include repainting the posts. and-
right, yeah.
Sprucing that
I've
up a
cleaned
little bit.
so much there since,
I'm sure,
oh my God.
it's not a
It looks nice.
bad looking property to
Right.
start with, I mean, it's.
Inside.
Well, inside, yeah,
He just had all of his family's things in there that, cause dad stored at dad's place.
Do you
So
own the
on-
property or you're
Yes.
leasing it?
No, I own it. And I'm not having any tenants and I'm not having any renters. And 2 people stopped and they're not starting their landscape business out of the south end of the building, cause no.
are you gonna be storing any large blue tanks?
No, maybe. But I do have a trailer I could haul.
Yeah.
I could haul it to his destination. I asked, I'll make a site plan or more specific of the size of the building and the parking and the bathrooms and the office, right?
Yeah.
But what about, I wanna put more trucks outside. do I gotta have like parking lines drawn for them if I put like 4 outside?
I think you should put on your site plan. Some rectangles representing.
Okay.
The trucks and
Yeah.
where you would park them.
Cause if there's,
In the area.
To the extreme
okay,
that you think it might grow to.
okay,
So that we can approve. What you foresee in 10 years.
okay,
As I might have 16 trucks out
Okay.
there. This is how I would handle that. If that were to be the case.
right,
And this is where I would put them and this is where I would park the employees and.
And maybe you just simply delineate the area where you anticipate parking
What do you-
trucks.
delineate, you mean just put line, like parking line?
Yeah, just like block out the area.
Okay.
With
Say
that
truck parking.
crosshatch or something.
Yeah, because like you said, I wanna grow in the community and hire skilled professionals.
But we may not, but we don't want 12 dump trucks parked along,
Yeah, along-
facing out.
Right along the street.
Yeah, yeah,
Right, no, yeah, so like right now, the couple that go inside, then the employees park their cars over there. And I say, yeah, way out of the way so nobody swings in and hits it, or the dumpster guy. But yeah, I'll draw, so if I had 16 spots, I would put like 16 in a row, and then cars would be, there's plenty of room in that gravel.
It's a good exercise for you.
Well, I wanted
Think about
to
it.
put new stone down and, new stone and clean it all up, cause it's all just fill from 30 years ago.
Gravel.
It's stuff from like, quality block, it's all just broken block and brick and boulders, and I wanna cover it all with, and I'd ultimately like to take and sealer the blacktop parking lot with, blacktop sealer, put the white TB down and some trucks in there and then take an aerial view, but it's still got his name on the sign.
Yeah.
Page. Okay,
So I would like to suggest that you, if you do not already have Allison's contact information, that you, check with her to make sure that you've, completed all of the things that we've identified and that you're in full compliance.
Okay.
with-
right, I gotta draw the building and scale it to size,
And don't forget where the dumpster is gonna be.
right?
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I mean, everything's in the same exact place that he had, only cleaner.
Is that at the back of the building? Is that
Behind the building.
I think,
Right?
let me see your.
That,
We don't have to.
No, it's exactly dumpster
is that
behind
the
you.
dumpster?
No, that was his, he built that out of blocks, and he had like some garbage and scrap iron or whatever. No, I took that all apart already. Go look at it once it's people. I bulldozed it all, and
So you're keeping any garbage containers you have. in
there's a
your garage?
dumpster there already.
Okay,
there's
is
a
it
dumpster.
screened?
Hmm?
Is it screened from view? Like usually we have a fence around them.
Well, no, it's around the side where his is, but that's like a dumpster junkyard there.
Okay, but is it on the side of the building by the?
It's right here on this corner, on the gravel, right in the corner.
Of the
you-
building, and you can
Yeah.
see it from the street?
No,
Yeah, that's what we care
yeah, you can't. It's on the side, it's right behind, right on the corner of the building.
If it's visible, it will need to be fenced.
Right, it's not.
Okay.
Okay, but it's not visible. I mean, not from the street at all, no.
So although, Mr. Tamburino, we appreciate that you're doing the exact same thing in the exact same property that's been done. There's no guarantee that we have a plan of operation from the previous owner. And so just updating all of this just makes it so that if we get a complaint and somebody says, hey, they're parking trucks outside, as long as your trucks are parked in the location that you indicated and we approved,
Okay,
that is what we need,
Okay.
so you wanna think ahead, and if
Absolutely.
your hours are gonna sometimes be longer than what you have on here, go ahead and put that on there,
Okay.
because your plan of operation should encompass your full scope, so that both you and the village are protected, and we can say, hey, look, his plan of operation told us he was gonna start, operations at 7 AM, and we approved it, if that's the case.
I mean, sometimes it's even earlier, cause I do a lot of business with this Good Hope Quarry right here,
Yeah.
and they open at 6, so the guys will leave at 5:30, 5:45, but new trucks nowadays are so quiet.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I mean, I wanna be like big Uncle Jack Moss down there, but I can't afford all that chrome. You know, and they wouldn't be quite as loud either,
Well,
but.
you go ahead and start thinking about the worst cases of how early would I conceivably start.
Right.
That's what we wanna know.
Oh,
We
okay,
don't wanna know the average
right.
time.
Yeah, the earliest would be like 5:45.
Yeah, you got
Okay.
like 6 a.m. here now.
Yeah.
You didn't put 5 o'clock then, if you think it'd be early.
Okay. Yeah, just because they open at 6 and if you wanna get in and get out,
Right,
leave at 5:30.
understand.
Yeah, we're totally in support. Do you
So-
have Alice's contact information?
No,
Gravel parking, okay? Yeah, as long as the entrance is paid.
I would like an email, address for you, sir.
from me?
Yes.
Oh, I probably got it on my business card.
Then we need
You're
to,
gonna need new t-shirts too, if you're not in Slinger.
Right? I'm still paying on that building, so it's gonna be a bit. Yeah, here's an email right on,
okay, hand this back to you. We just,
you can keep it.
we are old enough that we don't have an email address on our applications. We need to update that, yeah.
So are we making a motion to table this until revised paperwork comes in?
I would say we could either do that or somebody could move to conditionally approve it. As long as, all of the, requisite information has been provided to staff. At least for the plan of operation, I think the sign permit's gotta get tabled. I don't think that's at a point where we can do that. But
I'll
that's,
make that motion.
okay, that's my take.
So I'm sorry, you said we were tabling which one? The sign. The
So we
sign.
can conditionally approve, the plan of operation, pending staff, acknowledgement of the completion of the missing items discussed and then staff's, comments. And then,
That's item 7.
the next item is the sign permit. That's
Yeah.
a separate agenda item.
I'll second.
Okay, so we got a motion, and a second, we have comment from council.
I recommend that there be a due date for the submission of the information, giving him enough time, of course.
Yep, that's a good suggestion. Do you have a notion of how long it might take you to get this buttoned up?
I can have it here next month if it's the one,
Okay, so by,
Well,
the third one.
By our motion, what we would be doing is we would be giving you permission and basically approving your plan of operation contingent upon you getting us more information. So if you can do that in the next week or the next 14 days, you should do that because we'll go ahead and say, yep, you're okay
Okay.
to operate out
Okay.
of that location. Pending you getting us, just the missing things that we would
Very
like to
good.
see in your plan of operation.
Is that gonna
So
be
you
in?
don't have to wait a whole month to come back again
Oh,
to the next
Okay,
planning
good.
commission meeting.
Okay.
Right.
But give yourself enough time to be able to get that.
Okay, yeah.
Because you have to get your artist and everything else. And-
Right, okay.
Just item 7.
Well.
Yeah, so
yeah.
your sign permit will not be approved tonight. That we will revisit next month when your artist has a rendering
Okay.
and we see how far from the edge of the road the sign is placed and all that sort of stuff. But as far as the plan of operation that allows you to, start getting ready to put your trucks in there,
Okay.
we can do that tonight as long as you say in the next
2 weeks.
Next 2 weeks, 14
Sure.
days.
Mhm.
council has a couple more comments.
Mr. Tamburino, who actually owns the property?
My wife and I,
Oh, because you reference a corporation. You.
well, my wife and I own it and then we're gonna, as an LLC property company, lease it back to the truck.
Okay. So. So who is the actual owner? A.R. Tamburino LLC?
Yes, me and my wife, Timberly and Tony.
Okay, so that should be reflected correctly. And if I understood you correctly, you contemplated doing some grading and surface altering and maybe sealing
Right.
something, yeah. I would suggest that if you do that, that you also consult with someone about drainage. I'm not familiar with the topography there,
Okay,
but you don't want to create a drainage problem for
Right.
any other adjoining property after investing all that.
He's
Right.
not gonna, I don't think, do any grading. I think he just wants to put some new.
new stone on top of the driveway.
Existing gravel area.
Yeah,
Okay.
drainage is all
Since the
existing.
asphalt's existing, he just wants to seal it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, is it?
I don't think we're doing our due diligence here without a site plan. I'm not comfortable at all. Just blanketly. I don't know why we just don't table it and bring them back next month with a site plan that we can all look at. Nothing's gonna be lost by a month. It's gonna come back for a sign permit anyways.
Well, respectfully, my argument for saying that I'm not real concerned with that is because in his application, he's already kind of indicated how many trucks and where they're going to be. We do need it drawn out, but I mean, it's not like he's gonna sell hot dogs and it used to be, you know, trucking, it's
But
trucking.
what you brought up earlier. We're trying to protect him. And by looking at something, seeing what he has in his head. And on paper, that becomes memorialized as your protection in the future.
Right,
And I
okay,
wanna-
and like Mr. Newman said, I'm gonna have 17 trucks outside.
Show me how you're gonna do it.
Right.
And if I say yay,
Yeah,
you got 17 trucks that you can
Okay.
put where you said you were gonna put them.
right.
But right now, we're kind of dealing in. The supposed, you know, what you might think about doing, and I'd rather see something on paper. I've been through this as a business owner already.
Okay.
And I did my due diligence to make my plan of operations and my site plan show everything. Absolutely everything that I thought I might do on that property. So that. In the future, someone complains of what I'm doing.
Okay, right,
I got this piece of paper and I also have. Planning Commission approved that
okay,
as my backup.
perfect.
So that's what I'm looking for you.
Okay.
Because I want to protect you, and I think the more information you can give me to say. That I saw it and said that this is what I want, or that I think is a good for you. That's your protection.
Perfect, yeah,
And so, do you have a problem with coming back in a month?
no, no, perfect. Will does Allison or somebody got a checklist of the stuff that we just talked about? I mean.
Yes,
Yeah, everything, when you got the application for the plan of operation, there should have been a whole checklist of what's expected to be included in that submission.
I also gave him a copy of the comments from Allison.
Okay, good. Yeah. So Allison has
Spell out what she's looking for.
Okay,
spelled out some stuff there, so I'm fairly confident that, you know, if you're in communication with her, she can give you some good direction in terms of. What's to be expected for next month, assuming that
okay,
that's when we see you again. But we do currently have a motion and a second on the floor. Did we have any other comments or questions? I personally, initially, my instinct was a little contrary to, Mr. Payleitner's. I was like, well, what's gonna be shown in the building that's really gonna be of concern for us, but you bring, the parking issue does resonate with me. I tend to kind of agree. Okay, so we have the motion and a second to conditionally approve the plan of operation, so that's what we'll be voting on. All in favor, say aye. Did you get who the ayes were, or do you need a roll call?
Colleen says yes, it's okay.
I
if
am-
initially you're approved.
Yeah, I have Janice, Blake, and Newman.
Okay, and nays? Nay for me,
Nay.
Nay.
4 nays. Okay, so the motion fails. Does anybody care to propose another motion or a new motion?
I'll make a motion, that, Mr. Tamburino return next month, with a completed submission with the updated site plans, floor plans. And additional information is requested in our form and by Allison. I think we'll need that paperwork within 3 weeks, so we have a week ahead of next month. Agenda.
Yep.
Brenda can also be a resource too if you get stuck.
I'll be on the phone with her tomorrow morning.
I will second Dan's motion.
So we have a motion and a second,
It's really Steve's motion.
Yeah.
right?
I'll go along with the rest of them.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
I
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, item number 8, discussion and possible action on sign permit application for AR Tamburino Inc. at 21833 West Good Hope Road, Landon, Wisconsin. I think we've covered that and our expectations adequately for you, correct, on what
I make
to
a,
expect there?
yeah, I make a motion to table item number 8 until next month.
Okay, we have a motion to table,
I'll second.
seconded by Pay Lightner. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Great, motion carries. Thank you for working through this with us.
And welcome to
Do you,
Lennon.
do you have an expected like opening date or date that you wanna move your operations to Landon, or is it, are you just gonna operate concurrently in 2 places?
No, we're just, I mean, I got a couple trucks there, but the main office is still at my house in Slinger.
Okay. All right, well,
So no, I don't have a permanent, I mean, the sooner the better, yeah, but we'll come next month and,
good luck. Well, we're look forward to having you here.
okay,
Just.
very good,
as a-
excellent,
as
happy
a
to be
heads
here.
up to you, we are planning to do reconstruction work on Good Hope Road.
Mhm.
Uh,
Haul it all for free.
That's what you want.
Just the dirt from my berm. Oh,
so
just the dirt from my berm.
that project is.
That will
supposed to go in
require a
2028.
grading permit.
It's gonna go in 28. Okay,
And the right of ways, the road is not gonna be widened, but the legal right of ways will need to increase. Cause I think your right of way currently is drawn out to the center line of the road. So that'll need to come back appropriately. So I don't know if it's 30 feet or what, 50 feet or whatever it is, but that the road's not getting wider, but
The setback is.
The legal, the lot line will change.
yeah.
Great.
they're not gonna wreck my sign, are they?
No,
No.
road stays the same,
Yeah,
it's just the property.
okay.
Yeah, the property pins would move back.
Oh, okay, fine, yeah. Okay, very good.
Alright,
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item number 10 has been done,
Right.
or
Not getting-
9 has been done. excuse me.
Yeah.
Item number 10, discussion and possible action regarding plan of operation and site plan for Landon Motors, 20365 West Main Street, Landon, Wisconsin, 53046. And you have comments here from Allison on this property as well.
Have you reviewed those?
No, I didn't.
I
Oh.
just got.
We'll get you a copy of
You
it.
got, she's got.
Brenda's got it. Allison, you wanna walk us through your comments on this one?
Yes, thank you. So from what I can tell on this one, this is a site plan and plan of operation for Lannon Motors, and they are, it's a little bit unclear to me on the application if they have officially changed hands or if there's a new operator. But what I do know from the application is that they are seeking approval of a landscaping and parking lot expansion project. And so in my review, you'll notice that I did note that the completed application form for the plan of operations and site plan was provided, but there's quite a bit of information missing. Almost all of the application is actually empty. So there's quite a bit of information that the applicant should fill in on that form. They did provide a site plan. But they did not provide a detailed description of use. So just going through the site plan that was permitted, Because they are looking at expanding a parking area, there are quite a few ordinances that need to be complied with. And unfortunately, the site plan that was provided to me is kind of like a scanned version of like a paper copy. And so it's really, really hard to read. There's not a lot of detail that is actually legible to me, such as applicable setbacks. And it's not depicted anywhere what type of surface it will be. The proposed site plan does not depict their dumpster enclosure area or screening area. And then the parking lot itself, they're not depicting if they are placing any striping or any type of actual parking stalls. I know it is a car sales lot, so I don't know if that's something they're planning or not. But again, I don't know the surface that they're proposing. I don't know the setbacks on the proposed expansion. And then in terms of the landscaping, they have submitted a landscaping proposal, and they're showing that they're going to be adding several plantings and landscape areas around the park, up around the property and the parking area. But it doesn't tell me a lot of specifics about the landscaping. And additionally, the ordinance does state that all off-street parking lots with more than 10 stalls should have at least 10% of the interior parking area landscaped, and at least 1 tree and 6 shrubs shall be located in landscape islands per 200 square feet of the landscape island area. Again, I don't know if they're planning on having stalls because it is a car dealer lot. Or if the Plan Commission is opposed to them not having stalls in the new pavement area. But it's unclear to me whether or not they're meeting those landscape standards based upon the site plan. So those are my main comments. At this point, I would be looking for a completed application with a little bit more information filled out. I'd be looking for a detailed site plan that gives me a little bit more information about the proposed parking area, surfacing type, all setbacks to property lines, grading, and stormwater, and then a detailed description of the use.
Yeah, I would argue there's more than just a little more information needed here on the application.
I would make a motion that we table this till next month. So we get the completed paperwork.
Yeah.
And Allison, Marat did bring full-size plans with him. Are those the landscape plans?
Yeah,
I don't know why you, do you have this in digital
Well,
form?
let's, if we can hold on for a second, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second yet?
Okay.
I'll second. Okay, now we can discuss.
Okay, sorry about
Oh.
that. So yeah, all of this needs to be filled out completely,
Okay.
okay?
Mhm.
And then, do you have a digital
I
file
do.
of that? Because then when you have a digital file, if you could submit that by email,
Okay.
Allison's able to look at it on her
Okay.
screen
Okay.
and, you know, the copy. Because Allison, you know, I do see that they do have, a landscape, plan. Now, whether it conforms to the ordinance with the quantity, but yeah, I mean, some of this can be resolved by being able to read it. I agree that it's terrible to read, especially when you're my age.
Definitely. Yeah. Something that's a little bit more easy to read would be helpful. But if the site plan could also be amended to include all pavement setbacks on the new pavement, that would be extremely helpful. And I don't know whether or not the applicant has spoken to the building department or whether or not this would require a building permit or some grading and stormwater review, but that should also be looked into, and we should make sure that that is being addressed as well.
Right.
What, are there any limitations on to the number of vehicles, that he can have on his lot?
There was.
There was for his previous plan of operation, it was like 21 cars, I think.
Second time we came, it was 32, including customer parking and the ones for the service. It was total 32 cars.
Okay, and so looks like you're proposing 61 parking
Yes,
stalls?
because most of the parts on the left side,
Yeah,
it's not developed yet, we cut the trees down.
yeah,
But it's just, uneven areas. We just wanna make it even, grade it and make it, better parking lot and do some landscaping. And maybe once it's done, do asphalt everything. Make it,
everything would be asphalt?
Yep, including, we're planning to do asphalt even on the old place, everything, make it everything brand new.
Where would your cars for sale be?
All the parking lots on the right side, on the front, on the left side of the building, mostly for repair and customer parking.
So you'll be doing service and car
Yes,
sales?
yes,
Okay,
just service our cars, our own cars.
okay, so you service them before you sell them?
Yes.
You're not a repair shop?
No,
Okay,
So
so
we have
these would
also-
be, so these would be cars that are waiting to be prepped, and then these would be cars that are for sales? Okay,
I would say you need to get a good grading plan for
Right.
this too, because you're gonna need a grading plan with a stormwater management plan, and then like Allison said, the setbacks and everything need to be delineated, so a landscape plan is nice, and this looks nice and formal and specific, but this is missing some key components that we're gonna be looking for.
Cause we know how that water sits out on that other side, so we're gonna wanna make sure that that water is draining properly.
and does he need to do photometrics as well?
I don't, are you proposing any new lighting? Yeah, so you'll need a photometric study as well.
For the lights.
Yeah, and council has a couple of questions for you.
I think, commission member.
Are you the owner?
Yes, I am.
You own the land?
Yes.
Who are you? Excuse me,
Oh, yeah, sorry, my name is Marat. Marat, I go by Mark, make it easier.
You
everybody.
own the land or you rent it?
I own, now, I just bought it
You
from,
bought it. When
yes,
did you buy it?
Great,
a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
congratulations.
Thanks so much.
The
I've been,
records show that
Oh,
Jake's.
yeah, Jake's,
Services
uh-huh.
LLC has that.
yeah,
He's
I
been
bought it-
waiting for the DNR to clear the land so.
Yeah,
they can
yeah,
we waited about 6 years for DNR clean the land.
Yeah,
And then once
So
it's
you're-
clear, we got,
So you're owning it personally or through a corporation or
Uh,
what? How are you?
just through, LLC.
No,
yeah.
see, okay, that should be reflected.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
just to show you, I marked in red all the information that was missing here.
Okay,
There a reason why you didn't provide that information?
I didn't know how to do it, to be honest. I should
English
have-
is his second language.
Yeah, my third language.
Language. Sorry.
Yeah, because, I am not familiar with your site.
Okay.
Over the years, I've heard that there is unhappiness in the village as to how it's been maintained,
Oh, okay.
operated.
Mhm.
How long have you maintained it?
I've been renting the place from Gary Jake's almost 10 years, 9.5 years.
Okay, so,
Mhm.
so,
That's why,
my advice to you would be get someone to assist you
Mhm.
so that now that you're an owner, you can grow.
Mhm. That's why I wanted to make landscaping, make it nice, some investment,
Yeah.
just to make Lennon look better,
yeah.
Other side doesn't look good, to be honest. I wanna clean up the area, make a nice landscaping, do asphalt to make it representable.
Yeah, we'd love to see that
Yeah.
too. And make-
dumpster.
Yeah, we will, yeah,
Yeah.
it's on the back of the building, just wanted to get approved this one, once they finish the landscaping, so then we can do, screening.
Yeah.
Cause I need that area to do planting on the back of the building too.
So again, we wanna help you get to the finish line there.
Okay,
We just need a lot more information here. If you need help from someone, I'm sure you can reach out to someone from the commission here
okay,
to assist you. the clerks and the assistant, the deputy clerk. Can help. Allison is a good resource as well. If there are specifics, but most of the areas on that form are on there for a reason and they need information.
Okay.
Okay,
I'll vote.
so,
And then everything's outlined in this that Brenda gave you.
Okay.
This is Allison's notes
Okay.
on what she's gonna be looking for, and if you have any questions, again, Mara, can I have your email?
Sure, it's, I can just give a.
It's Land and Motors ad, right?
Motors LLC at gmail.com.
LLC@gmail.
Yes.
Okay.
okay. Are you gonna send both of these applicants Allison's contact?
Allison's.
That all.
So I am sending these emails to her so she can initiate an email to them.
Great, okay.
So if they have questions, they can.
That's perfect. I will reach out.
Excellent. So we did have a motion, a second to table. Any other additional comments from the commission? Nope.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for
Yeah,
that.
we'll get there.
I'll work on it, hopefully.
We'll get there. All right, thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, the table.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, congratulations for sure. Item number 11, discussion and possible action on plan of operation and site plan for Precision Sports Services 21124 West Good Hope Road, Atlanta, Wisconsin 53046. We've got an application, plan of operation application here. And we have some comments from Allison. Provided detailed description, provided incomplete.
Yeah.
Okay,
No such luck with it.
well, why don't you give us your high points again, Allison, just so we can maintain some consistency here.
Sure, yes, absolutely. So you've got 2 agenda items this evening for Precision Sports Services. You've got a plan of operations site plan, and then you've also got a sign permit as well. So from what I gathered from the application on this one, this is a new operator of this site and a change in use. And also they are doing signage. So they have provided a completed application form. It's detailed and they have filled everything in. I believe they've provided that information. They also have provided a site plan and interior floor plans of the property. So that's great. It looks like they have been put together by a professional company. The interior floor plan depicts everything on the interior of the building. And then they also have an exterior site plan as well. And then they also have a snippet. You'll notice in your packet, there's a snippet from the GIS map as well. The one thing I will mention too is that, again, these were kind of scanned paper format documents. So they were quite difficult to read and pretty illegible in quite a few places because they were not actually PDF documents. But I was able to gather quite a bit of information off of them. So a couple of things. The detailed description of use is technically incomplete. They did provide a lot of detail on their application and they explained their business and what it is. But there's not an actual separate detailed description of use. From their application though, they're proposing to lease this existing building to operate a sales, assembly, and delivery facility for sporting equipment. They mentioned in their application that they primarily sell and install in-ground basketball systems, gym equipment, curtains, backdrops, netting, basketball hoops, volleyball courts, etc. The company is currently comprised of 8 full-time employees and up to 4 part-time employees at a time. They also have submitted a signage plan, which the application form is complete and provided. They do not, from what I can tell, provide a site plan or plat of survey with the location of the signage. It does look like very similar to the earlier application on our agenda. This individual is also just seeking to replace the existing sign on the existing posts. So it is, you know, in my assumption, it should be okay. We've got a detailed sign plan that shows the dimensions of the signage and shows the post height and shows the actual like design of the sign by a company. But I just don't have a site plan that is legible for me to see where that sign is located on that site and what the setback is. But again, just a replacement sign there. Go ahead.
And I mentioned too, that this was a sign that was erected by the previous tenant, and at the time, we had conditionally approved that sign pending the installation of landscaping around it, and they never did that. So I kind of would like to see that happen now that we're changing the sign panel. We do require post and panel signs to have some sort of landscaping incorporated around the base.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ready, oh, by the way.
Yeah, no, we know.
Okay.
That's how we ended up recommending
He should make.
strongly that they should submit a sign permit application.
Well, they've been using the box truck as a sign.
Yeah, no, that's legal. My concern about this is I see on here that there's a vague reference to DEL Landscaping and his employees.
They've been there for a few months.
Also renting this space.
Yep.
So now we're getting into this situation where we have a single property, multiple tenants. And that are renting.
Yep.
So this is not a property owner. So if we go back to our earlier premise of we would require the owner of the property to have a plan of operation that would encompass any subordinate plans of operation is the proper way to do it. And DEL is not in compliance because apparently they've been operating a business in there without any plan of operation.
Yeah, correct.
I'm sorry?
Is Buckley still on?
No,
No, he sold it.
I thought he sold it.
He did.
Well,
He-
he sold it to himself, it looks like.
Buck.
Because the listed owner of the property is,
Brian Hubert. Or Hubert.
That's
that's Hubert Property Group LLC. Isn't that, is that him or is that?
No.
Oh,
The name of
I wonder
this-
if that's Hubert. I wonder if Hubert from Lakeshore Burial Vault bought it
Oh.
and then rented it out.
Hmm.
I don't know, the can of worms.
The applicant's name is Brian Hubert.
But the contact person is Jordan Hubert.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they, no, they're brothers, because I spoke to one of these guys, because we actually started down the path of the sign for them. And then they took our artwork somewhere else and had the sign made. But we were settling up some fees and, so I spoke to one of these gentlemen.
So, on this application, the name of the business should be Precision Sports, and the owner's name is the owner of Precision Sports, not the owner of the property. Is there any place on this application where we have the owner of the property if it's a lease?
It's
Should
under
we
D.
maybe, we should have that on there? Yeah.
It is, it's under D, it says, is this business renting this space? And it's indicated yes, and it says, if yes, please complete building owner's name.
Oh, and then it's.
And it's got the address and telephone number, Human Property Group, address, telephone number.
I see that now, yeah,
But same address, same building.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
so,
Yeah.
so they bought the property.
So,
buttons on your underwear.
yeah.
So I guess my question is Precision Sports Services is perhaps not occupying the entire building and they're potentially subleasing a portion of it to possibly DEL Landscape.
It was designed with 3 segments when Forrester built it.
Right, so Hubert Property Group presumably owns the entire property. And then Precision Sports is partial occupant or maybe majority occupant, and then perhaps BEL is
Sublease.
is a leasing a portion of it, perhaps a minority portion of it. That's the way it appears.
Yeah,
We need to do A before B here.
Yep.
yeah. So I think, you know, given the uncertainty there, we need some clarification on this. I would recommend that we probably table this item. And maybe ask that, maybe the chief pays a visit down there to determine
Yeah.
who DEL is and notify them that
Where's your
they
site
need
plan?
to, notify them that they need to come here and fill out a plan of operation.
Well, we're looking for the property owner to have a plan of
Yeah.
operation that
So-
states that he's going to be leasing.
Correct.
So I think that's what he's trying to do here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you know, cause he, under the number of people and use and occupancy, this is where he's kind of tipped his hand a little bit with the peak number of people on premises, 15. This would rarely occur and also include the current tenant, DEL Landscaping, and his employees.
Yes,
So.
I think this is a table for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, but you're right. I mean, we should validate that they are in fact the owners and they're operating their own business out of it and they in fact have one tenant.
Yep.
DEL Landscaping, and are there any plans for any other tenants?
Right.
And then we have to broach the topic of, okay, you've got a landscaping company here. Here we go with contractor storage yard again,
Yep.
right?
But just to be clear though, Huber Property Group has to have a plan of operation and Precision Sports, right?
And,
Yeah.
Yes.
And DEL, right?
Yeah.
and anyone else who happens to
Right,
be there.
exactly right.
So, just for my understanding, given that, you know, they, unfortunately kind of, turned somebody in unintentionally, by placing this information on their application. And you mentioned maybe the chief can go down and talk to that other, tenant to tell them that they need to come into compliance. Obviously, the other property owner, I don't believe he's in the Huber Property Group. I don't think they're in the audience at this point. They are probably unaware. They're new owners, it seems like. Is this something where you would like me or someone from the village to try and send that property owner a letter advising them that we received a plan of operations for one of their tenants and they would also need to come in for a plan of operations?
And so really, in total, what we're looking here for is going to be at a minimum, a total of 3 plans of operation.
Yeah.
Right.
Have the property owner, and then you're going to have, and that's gonna indicate how many tenants there will be and what the conditions of their use will be. Or the allowed use will be. I don't know that they necessarily. I'll let council determine how specific they need to be in terms of the use of the space. There is concern about one of the tenants possibly getting into the realm of contractor storage. That's gonna pose some issues.
Yeah.
But I would say short of someone else from the commission volunteering to contact the owner and explaining all this, I would be in favor of having you do that.
Okay. Yeah, well, then I would definitely recommend this one be tabled for this evening. I'm not even sure that there's an applicant present to kind of talk about it. But they are meeting, they're missing items in their application. We need some clarity on the ownership and the tenant split. And, you know, some clarity, they're providing an overall site plan, but there's no clarity on that site plan, which space they're exclusively using for their business. And so we should get some more information from them.
Could it be, I will add, just in case you're not aware, one of the things that I would say that we are probably going to be looking for on the site plan is specific designation of areas that are going to be used by each individual tenant on the property and what those uses are going to be intended for.
Okay.
This is a high visibility property, even behind the building, because it's along the
It's gonna have to be
bus line
screened.
trail.
It's
Yep,
gonna have to be
so,
screened.
so they're gonna be scrutinized a little bit more strictly. Um,
Is Precision Sports Services, are they a retail business or are they more?
They're commercial. You read what they do.
yeah,
So they, and do they have customers coming into a showroom?
Good question for them, isn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe they want to show it next meeting.
bless you, bless you.
Yeah. It's a good question, and unfortunately, their application doesn't really specify. They vaguely specify that they sell equipment, but they don't discuss whether or not, I mean, they have hours of operation listed, but they don't discuss in their application if they're actually open to the public, which is why I think we also need a better detailed description of use.
I agree.
Do they have the proper zoning if they are open to the public?
I think
Yeah.
it's
They
business.
should, I think.
Yes, yes, they do.
I think this property is L1.
Light industrial.
I think
That'd be
so.
the foundry next door, but it could be.
Cause it says, they've listed it on their application that they're light industrial.
Okay. Well, when
I can double
Forrester
check.
built it, how he would have done it because it was for his construction company. Many years ago.
Okay.
I wouldn't think that that would prohibit them from having a showroom or whatever. I mean, the stone quarry across the street, Lemke Stone, has
Sure.
a sales showroom down in the pit, so. I wouldn't think that we would have allowed that, but I don't know, we've done crazier stuff in the past, but.
I'll make a motion, we table.
And I will second.
We have a motion and a second to table the plan of operation and site plan for Precision Sports Services 21124 West Good Hope Road, Landon, Wisconsin. Item number 12, discussion and possible action on sign permit application for Precision Sports Services 21124 West Good Hope Road. I know, barring Commissioner Lake's comments, I didn't really have any other issues. We approved this sign recently when Buck Buckley moved in there. The new panels aren't,
Any different?
they're not like offensive or,
No, it's tasteful.
yeah, I mean, it's for the most part, it's professionally done. It looks good, but, I do you recall either Allison or Hector? I thought I remember we thought that it required landscaping for monument or post and panel signs like this, but then for some reason, I'm thinking we went back and looked at the ordinances and we don't actually have anything in our ordinances that specify that. I know that, well, maybe we do then still.
Yeah, I think
I'm trying to remember.
I can look it up if you'd like.
Yeah, cause you can look at all the pole signs around town that all have a base landscaping.
Yeah, I know most municipalities require that.
Yeah.
And in fact, many don't even allow post signs like this
Now, what,
at all anymore.
what we did do is they were talking about vegetation. And we allowed people to use lamb and stone instead of putting plants in. So you'll see some of the pole signs have lamb and stone around.
Yeah, like, well, Lakeshore, I think they
Yeah.
did that as an accent around their
Yeah.
sign. Which also was erected prior to an application.
Did we vote on 11?
Yes. Yes, we did, we tabled that.
But did we vote on it?
I don't think so.
I don't think we voted on it.
Oh, my apologies. So we did have a motion and a second, so all in favor to table number 11? Any opposed? Motion carried, thank you, Commissioner Janice.
Now 12.
Yeah, now 12.
I just want to confirm that your ordinance does state that any post-mounted pole or ground signs do require landscaping around the base.
There we go.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, Allison.
Given what we've experienced tonight, this would be a recommendation for me that now that Allison is on board, that she be given the task of redesigning the application form for the relevant information. Now, what I have seen in other communities work successfully is that the first thing that they ask for is who is the owner of the entire premises?
Right.
And they also require the owner to show up, because how can we take the word of someone who's new to the community and probably out of ignorance may respond in a way inconsistent with the situation there, or basically trying to have it his or her way and require the owner or require notification to the owner to be here. Because we've had a number of situations where people just don't show and there isn't an effective sanction mechanism. And that's not there to view. So.
Right. I think those are very good points, Hector, and I think, taken under advisement, and you're right, I think, we have an opportunity to improve the process for sure.
I printed out some other plans of operation forms and stuff from the surrounding communities to try and incorporate into ours.
Okay.
Good call.
Yeah. When do you anticipate, I think we also talked with Allison about redoing the sign permit form and cleaning that up.
Yeah, I printed those off too, I think.
I think we need to be charging way more for that sign permit too. It should be like $100 or $150. That's more commensurate with other communities.
I don't, I'm sure it's right.
It's at $25. Well,
No, it's
for the
75.
application and then a $75
So it's
permit. So,
100,
I mean, the
but still.
it should be closer to 150.
I'll make a motion that we table item 12 pending a revised application showing proposed landscaping around the sign.
I will second.
Motion and a second. I would also like to ask for a revision to indicate on the site plan the location of the sign for future documentation.
Yeah, and the location, I'm sorry, I didn't make the motion. I'm so used to making the motions. I was about to amend your motion.
Motion amended.
Second amended.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Discussion and possible action on outstanding items. I actually would like to, given the time and length of this meeting already, I don't want to dig into these other ones yet, and I want to update this list a bit more. With, given some of the current conversations that we had, I think.
Motion to adjourn.
There we go.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Allison, thank you. We will try to work out these technical glitches and be better prepared next time.
That's fine. Not a problem, not a problem. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Yeah.